What is vnet? Virtual network. Vnet means virtual network. Azure Virtual Network is called a short name of vnet, right? It's a real basic fundamental building block for private network in Azure. What exactly that means? We do have more than 200 services in Microsoft Azure, and that services, some of the services need communication in between. For example, we do have one application and one database, one virtual machine having some application, one virtual machine having some database, right? So application needs to speak with the database. Then only your application, your front end application works well. Your user is able to store his data, retrieve the data, etc., etc. Everything will happen. Without communication, we really can't make this happen. And one thing here we really need to look in is private, right? Private. What is private network? Private network in the sense it is completely isolated. Even I can create my own network. You can create your own network in Microsoft Azure. It's in your account, right? I can create my network in my account. You can create a private network in your account. It does not, I'm really not able to see your network because it is isolated. Even the services, network, or anything is isolated between the accounts. So it's really not possible to see, to break that particular isolated wall and see others' network. It's really not possible. It's like a house, right? Your account is like a house, and whatever you're building there, whatever you're storing there, whatever you're making there, right? That can't be visible to others. And this is a house, that's okay. Within this house, within this private space, there is some networking, right? Networking to make things connected. To make things connected. For example, I want to retrieve some data from storage account. I need a connectivity. Without connectivity, I really can't go to the storage account and collect the information. So that's what the meaning. It's private. Private in the sense it's only accessible in your account, isolated account. If you want to make the communication between, okay, then you might get one more doubt. Okay, we also have some customers also have on-premises environment. What will be the situation in that time? Yes. So yes, we do have, there should be some special arrangements required to make the connectivity between the accounts or to the on-premises of the your same environment. For example, I'm having an on-premises environment. I'm having my own data center, or I want to make connectivity to my personal laptop. Then that will happen using some special arrangement. Site to site, express route, point to site, right? These are the special arrangement that we need to perform to establish the connectivity between the on-premises to Azure cloud or your laptop to Azure cloud. Definitely we do one practical. From your laptop will reach your on-premises, Microsoft Azure virtual network, private network. I'll show you what that special arrangement really required. So here what we need to remember is, it's like the basic, to establish the basic connectivity, we need networking. In Azure, that is virtual network. It is private network. There are two types, public, private. After 2 or 3 slides, we will speak about public. For now, it is private networking. Whatever inside your Microsoft Azure networking is private networking. It's purely designed to connect your internal services, right? To connect your internal services. One virtual machine to another, one storage account to another, or one virtual machine to keyboard, right? Virtual machine to storage account. service bus to some other web app, anything. These things will happen only based on the network connectivity. Simple logic. So that is what vnet virtual network. So Microsoft Azure Virtual Networks, vnets, you can see here. Let me annotate. So logical isolation with over the network, logical isolation, and create subnets and isolate traffic with network security groups, and support for static IP addresses. Let me tell you, logical isolation with control over the network, right? So you can create multiple virtual networks inside your Microsoft Azure account. This is Microsoft Azure account, right? So inside this, you have a virtual network. This is one particular virtual network. In one virtual network, we do have subnets. We can split one virtual network to multiple subnets. One virtual network to multiple subnets. Why we do that, right? Why we do that? Because we have to segregate like web app servers or backend servers or database servers, anything, right? We need even segregation. One VNet will have bunch of IPs, and that big bunch of IPs will be sliced to small bunch of IPs, that is called subnets, right? We can create subnets, and also we can isolate the traffic within the network, within the one particular VNet or between other using NSGs. Network security groups is a initial firewall at the subnet level. NSGs can be applied at the subnet level. And support for static IP addresses. Static in the sense nothing. If I'm creating a virtual machine, I want to decide what IP needs to be assigned to that particular virtual machine is a static allocation. We do have dynamic as well. Dynamic in the sense, it's like Azure will decide one free IP and it will assign. Same thing. Azure will create one free IP and that will assign. That is dynamic. Static in the sense, you can decide what IP needs to be assigned to this particular virtual machine, for example. Simple thing. So, address space and subnets. In one particular VNet, as I told, this is VNet address space. This is subnets. In one particular VNet, this is the VNet address space that we selected. This gives some big bunch of IPs. In this big bunch, we create smaller chunks, smaller bunch of IPs, right? So we segregated /24, /24, /24 and /24. There will be lot of /24s will come under the /16. I'll explain little later how many exactly will come with the /16 and /24, etc., etc. But one thing I would like to explain here, you can define, you can define a big bunch of IPs here in CIDR notation. What if it is /16, /24, /32, /8, everything. If a IP 10.0.0.0 is mentioned in a way that /something is called CIDR notation, right? Classless interdomain routing. This is the specification what we call. Address space we have to give in CIDR notation. Same applies for the subnet. It's not like one IP or two IP you create as a subnet. If you want one IP, no problem. Just give /32. That's enough. That's only one IP, right? So if you want some 8 IPs, /28, give that. If you want some 256 IPs, then give /24. If you give 24 /24, you will get 256 IPs, available IP addresses. In that, some reservations are there. That's why you're able to see 251. We'll discuss it little later. But one thing you have to remember in this particular slide, vnet is a big bunch of IPs. We slice that into multiple smaller bunches using subnets. Simple. Using subnets. And CIDR notation. This is what. CIDR notation is something like how we can mention the IPs in a bunch manner. CIDR notation in the sense it's not like one IP or two IP, thousands of IPs and lakhs of IPs. We should have some calculation how we can give that as in a bunch. That is CIDR notation. For example, in this particular space, I'll explain what is /24, how many IPs it will come, and we'll deep dive that particular thing. For example, if you give /24, first three will be the frozen bits. I mean, that will never ever change. If you give /24, that never ever change. Only what exactly changes is last digit. That's it. Last digit. And if you give /24, how many, right? How many it will rotate is, it will rotate till 255. So total 250 times it will rotate. First IP will be 10.0.0.0 and next IP will be 10.0.0.1. Next one is 10.0.0.2. Like that it will go, and very last IP is 255. Because it is starting from 0, the total count is 256 addresses will come in picture. If you give /16, then frozen bits will be only these two. These two are the frozen bits. And first IP will be the same 10.0.0.0 and last IP will be 10.0.255. This will be 255.255. Last two, these two will rotate 255 times. Then it's like 65,536 IPs you will get if you mention /16, right? You can also mention /8. If you take /8, never, generally /8, we will not take that much bigger IP bunch. I never ever saw, but you can give. If you want, you can give. /8 means what happens is it will go like 3 leading bits. I mean, only the frozen is 1. This is frozen. Only this is frozen. Rest everything, this will go 255, this will go 255, this will go 255. Right? That's what exactly. You can give /1 to 32. It is allowed /1 to 32. So it's like 16 lakhs, no, 1 crore 67 lakhs 77,000 change IPs will come if you give /8. So, but I'll explain this while creating the vnet also. There we can get address space calculation and subnet creation. So that time also we will deal. But I don't want to deep dive to leading bits, frozen bits, etc., because that itself will take a big session, maybe 1.5 hour session. But for now, because this is early stage, you no need to worry. What you have to remember is very simple. /16 is for the vnet, /24 is for the subnet. Blind thing. That's what we give in our organization itself, right? So that's what. /16 is for the vnet. /24, which is coming from the same vnet, we slice into subnets. I will tell you how to slice easily. So this is what CIDR notation, which we explained about /24 and 16 and 18, 8. So private IP assignment rules. These are the rules which follows. IPs are allocated based on the order of the provisioning of the network interfaces. Simple. What the meaning is, for example, I created some subnet. The initial IP is 10.0.0.0 and last IP is 10.0.0.0 255, and IPs are allocated based on the order of the provisioning of the network interface cards. First IP will be taken, and next time whatever next available will be taken. That's what the meaning. And first 4 IPs and the last IP in the subnets are reserved. That's what I told. Here, if you see in this particular example, you can see 251 available, whereas /24 will give 256 IP addresses in total. /24 will give 256. Why 251? Because total 5 will be reserved by Microsoft Azure. You can't use that. You can't simply use that. So that's what first 4 IPs and last IP in the subnet reserved. Then subnet, for example, how the IP allocation will happen is from 4, because 10.0.1.0/24 is a subnet, web subnet, for example. I am creating a virtual machine. That virtual machine will have a network adapter, and the network adapter will take first IP as 1.4. If I'm creating another virtual machine or another NIC, it will take 1.5. Like that, it will go. And you can't use last one, 10.0.1.0, sorry, 1.255. You can't use, because even that is reserved by Microsoft Azure. This is interview question. So if someone asks about subnets, you have to mention this particular word, like it will reserve total 5 IPs in a subnet. That is first 4 and last one. Please remember this. And use static private IP address to retain IP regardless of the order. To retain. Here one thing. So there are two types of IP provisioning. As I told, it is the static and dynamic. If you give static IP address, it will reserve for your instance regardless of what to say, deallocate, stopped state. Even in that particular situation, your IP is reserved for your service. If you give dynamic, it's not reserved. I mean, one more thing. If you want to give specific IP address, right, you can avoid the order also. You can avoid order also. If you want to take fancy numbers, some 10.0.0.111, for example. Yes, regardless of order, you can select static private IP and you can mention your wish. Whatever the wish of your IP, you can mention that. So regardless of the order, that means. Just a moment. Yeah. And one more thing, RFC 1918 is another topic. If you got chance, you can also tell about this to the interviewer, then you'll get real good marks. So RFC 1918 private address space. So these are the below you can able to see 10 series, 172 series, 172 and 192. So these are the IP addresses generally whatever the organization they'll choose for. Whatever the organization they'll choose for the private networking. And this is the start IP, this is the end IP, total /8 is allowed in 10 series. Whereas in 172 series, it's allowed only till /12. And in 192.168 series, /16. I mean, only these two will rotate, rest everything is not private IP. I mean, it not falls under RFC 1918 standards. Each and every, most of the companies, they'll follow this particular private IP addresses. And trust me, one more thing. Your company, whatever you're going to join, they'll use this only, right? Because that is easy. In very worst case, people will use 172.16 and 190.168. Very rare case. But most of the people, what they use is 10 series only. And they'll use /16 as a vnet address space, /24 as subnet address space. That's it. Nothing more than that. But this is what considered as per RFC 1918. These are considered as private IP addresses. And you may get one more doubt. Why can't I give any IP address which I really like? Yes, you can give. If you want, you can give Google IP address also, 8.8.8.8. You can give that. But that works only inside your private network, right? And there will be conflict. If you're reaching your services to internet, that will conflict with Google server, Google IP, right? So that's what the problem. To avoid those kind of problems, it is defined what is private IP address space as per the RFC 1918 standards. So generally companies will follow this, and you can give whatever you want, but companies follows this simple logic, and we also need to follow the same. And public IP address. Private is okay. It is only accessible in your account, Azure Cloud account. What is public IP address then? Are we able to create the public IP address? How we can use public IP address? There are many doubts. So let me clear those. First of all, public IP address format itself, you can understand that is public IP address, right? Which does not falls under RFC 1918. It does not falls under RFC 1918. That is public IP. Point number one. And how we get the public IP addresses? If we understand, if we see it very closely, we have to create a resource called public IP, and we'll use that. How we are able to use? Because Microsoft providing us. How Microsoft is able to provide to us? Because they will reserve some IPs from ISP. From internet service provider, right? Whoever the internet service provider, like Colt, Airtel, Vodafone, etc., etc. From these companies, Microsoft or Google or AWS, everyone follows the same structure. They'll have some contract with service providers, internet service providers. From them, Microsoft Azure or any other cloud will reserve some bunch of IPs. Will reserve, they will buy it. Literally, they pay amount to the internet service provider, and they'll buy and they maintain in a pool, IP pool, public IP pool. From that pool, if you create a resource like public IP, that will be, we will get some IP from that particular bunch of public IPs. Try to understand. Very simple. It comes from the internet service provider to the Microsoft Azure, that is vendor for us. From that vendor, we take that public IP addresses. We pay the bill, Microsoft Azure pay the bill to the service provider. Simple logic. That's how public IPs will work. Okay, and public IPs will have some special qualities. What is that? You can reach that public IP addresses from any internet enabled devices. Simple logic. You can reach that public IP addresses from any internet enabled device, even from your mobile, even from your personal laptop, from anywhere. That's a quality of public IP address. There are advantages, there are disadvantages. Advantages means you can reach from anywhere, you can reach your services from anywhere. Disadvantages means it's a security threat to your private networking. Whatever the business that you're doing inside your Microsoft Azure cloud, right? You're allowing that, you're opening the gates to the public, right? That's a security threat anyway. So companies will restrict to use public IPs. They won't use public IPs. Trust me. In my organization, we don't have even single public IP for virtual machines. We do have load balancer, internal and public both. We do have public IP for the load balancer also. But with firewall enforced, etc., there are many things really considered and applied. But threat is, there is a security threat. You're opening the gates to the public because you're buying a public IP address from internet service provider that will have access to the entire world. From anywhere in the world you can reach this particular public IP. So we have to be very cautious, but it is flexible to use as well, right? There are advantages, disadvantages, and even in the public IP we do have static and dynamic. What is static? Static in the sense, while creating the public IP as a service, you can create it. Some IP will be assigned to you, not your choice here, not your choice. Some IP, random IP, will be assigned to you, and that will be reserved for you. If service is not online, deallocated, anything, right? If service is not assigned to, if IP, public IP is not assigned to any service, no problem, because you select static, it will reserved for you until you delete the service. There is another way, dynamic. What dynamic? If this is not assigned to any service, public IP is not assigned to any service, that will disappear. Your IP address, you can't see your IP address if it is dynamic. When you assign to any virtual machine, load balancer, or any other service, then only your some other random IP will be appear. There is no reservations comes in picture in dynamic. If you give static, once whatever the IP which is as allocated, that will be for you, and cost also changes. Static cost much than dynamic because you're doing the reservation, right? You're using it. So that's what the public IP. And first 5 static IPs are free for us. Simple. One more thing. This is peering. We do have 2 different vnets here, vnet 1 and vnet 2. Okay, I have to tell you one thing. So communication between VMs. For example, I do have a couple of virtual machines in this particular subnet. This is one virtual machine, and this is one virtual machine. Also, this is one virtual machine. If I want communication, this will happen without any issue. This will happen without any issue. If I want to communicate, because I do have another subnet in the same VNet, this also having one virtual machine. If I want to enable communication between these two, right? Communication freely happen if there is no NSG. If there is no NSG within the one particular VNet, right? within same vnet, two different subnets able to speak, able to communicate freely if there is no NSG. Remember it. Even this is interview question. People will ask this in a simple manner, right? So you have to explain this. If there is no NSG, between the subnets, communication will happen freely within one particular VNet. And for example, I do have VNet 1, VNet 2. VNet 1 have one subnet, VNet 2 have one subnet. Both have two different virtual machines. If this has to speak with this, right, then what happens is we need to have peering enabled. VNet peering is a concept that we need to enable separately to establish the communication between the subnets. Simple logic, between the subnets. This is called peering. We do have demo, separate demo for the VNet peering and private endpoint, nothing to worry. Just a thought, that's it. And network security group. If there is no NSG, communication will happen freely. That's what we learned just before. But if there is any NSG, what is NSG first of all? NSG means network security group. That is a instant firewall. What we call is instant firewall at subnet level. NSG can be applied at subnet level and network adapter level. Only these two places you can assign an NSG. Apart from that, nowhere you able to assign a NSG. One is subnet level, another one is network adapter level. These two levels you can assign a NSG. NSG is an instant firewall where you can write some rules. Right? What is the inbound traffic you want to allow? What is the outbound traffic you want to allow? Simple logic. So there will be a rule where you can specify the direction, whether it is inbound or outbound, which port, 443 or port 22 or port 80, any port, which port you want to allow, right? And the protocol, for example, TCP, UDP, ICMP, anything. Protocol, right? So you can decide the protocol. It's like instant firewall. You will specify some set of rules. What needs to go out, what needs to allow to come in. Simple logic. That is what NSG. Anyhow, we do some practical there also. While we created the virtual machine, we create some NSG rules. Nothing to worry. And pricing for this particular VNet is absolutely free. There is no cost involved in it. You can create a VNet, you can keep that entire lifetime. Not a problem. You can keep that entire lifetime because that is free. VNet itself free, but not other components which is assigned to the VNet. For example, I created a virtual machine, I created a public IP, right? Those are cost, not the VNet. Because you attached some virtual machine to VNet, don't think the virtual machine is free. No, this particular service alone is free. That's it. And every subscription is allowed to create 50 virtual networks across all regions. You have to remember this, right? Some people will ask this number also. I don't know why they ask. Even I personally experienced, they'll ask some maximums, minimums, which generally they should not ask. They should ask the scenarios, right? Scenarios. Then they can able to understand how strong we are in the concept. But some people will ask the numbers also. What is the maximum? What is the minimum? Just because from internet questions. Okay. So every subscription is allowed to create up to 50 virtual networks across all regions. Simple. That's it. Total 50 you can create. So that's what and we go to demo. Is there any doubts so far? If there are any, that will be cleared in the demo. You can ask me, you can stop me anytime. So to create a vnet, what we do, we type vnet or virtual network. It's up to you. Select the virtual network, click create button, and create your resource group or select existing. I do have two different resource groups, but I want to create new one. vnet rg01 and click OK. This is the instant resource group creation, right? And name of the vnet, vnet01, and select your location. As I told, I select West Europe. That's it. In the basic blade, right? What we create is, what we give is the required subscription, required resource group, vnet name, and which region, which location you want to create this particular service, that is virtual network. These are the four required. And IP addresses, this is what the place. See, by default 16 is selected, right? For the vnet address space. That's what I told. It gives 65,536 IP addresses. And one more thing is possible. You can give multiple IP addresses, IP address spaces, but it should not overlap one with another, right? Overlap. What overlap exactly, right? Here, the IP overlap is happening. First address space is having start IP of 10.0.0.0, right? And end IP, last IP is 10.0.255.255. Each and every IP is overlapping with the second address space which I chose. To avoid that, what I can do, I can make one here, right? That's it. Overlap is gone. Then the first IP for this piece is 10.1.0.0 and last IP is 10.1.255.255. Both gives 65,536 IP addresses. You can give multiple address spaces. There is no crime in it. Multiple. And subnet, right? You can add subnet from this bunch or this bunch. Remember, from this bunch or this bunch. Let me give that from second bunch. So subnet 01. Let it be 02. And this is from second bunch. 10.1.0.0/24. Right? The first IP is 10.1.0.0 and last IP is 10.1.0.255. Total 256 IP addresses and 5 Azure Resort addresses. Right? 251 plus 5. This is what. For now, rest everything, leave the default. And this thing, select as subnet 2. Subnet 01, sorry. That's it. So I created two subnets, which is from this is from this bunch and second one is from the second bunch. It's up to you. You can give multiple address spaces to the vnet. You can create multiple subnets from different subnets. This is what exactly needed. Vnet and subnet address spaces we deal in this particular blade. Next, we go to the security. In security, we do have Bastion host, DDoS protection, etc., right? So this is what Bastion host. Bastion host is something like, I told one thing. If we create direct public IP addresses in our environment, right? In our environment, that's a security threat. Generally, what companies will do is they'll create one jump server, jump, JUMP, jump server, right? So that jump server will have public access. And from that jump server, we'll have connectivity to our private networking. This is what generally people will do. That's what the example of Bastion host. Bastion host is a kind of jump host where it able to take RDP or SSH, and it's actually a PaaS service, platform as a service in Azure environment, and it will act as a jump host to our environment. You can enable, then you can give the Bastion host name and Bastion address space, etc. Everything you can give, and you can give some public IP. That's what I told. The jump host will have some public IP, and from there we'll give, I mean, two jumps, right? It's not like directly we give public IP to our production virtual machine, where we create some jump host. From there, we have connectivity to production environment. Generally, we disable this DDoS protection. It's up to customer requirement. Some customers will enable DDoS protection, right? So it's additional security for our private networking. In simple manner, as of now, what you have to know is it avoids any attacks, right? So any attacks that happen to your private networking. Additional security to your private networking. If you enable, you can create some DDoS. You have to create a DDoS and you have to select from the list. And firewall, this is also additional security for your particular virtual network. Generally, what happens is in your environment, you will create a firewall network for sure, one firewall network. Generally, companies will use their own firewall, trusted firewall, rather Azure firewall. So this also disabled generally. Or else, if you want, you can create the firewall and you can have public IP for that firewall. For now, let this disable. And as I told, tags also leave it for now. Okay, create validation is passed, and whatever we given, everything is passed, and create. Okay, it is created. Let's go to resource. Two ways, as I told. You can click direct this button, or you can type the virtual network. This will be located there. This is the vnet name, and this is the resource group name. This is the location. This is the subscription. Basic details will be displayed in this particular table manner. Select that. You will go inside. You will go inside this particular resource. And you can see address spaces. There are two different address spaces. For example, you like, right? For example, you want to add one more address space, not a problem. You can add here and you can save that. Simple math. You can add and you can save that. Or if you want to manage to delete, you can delete that. It's up to you, whatever you want to manage. For example, 10.2.0.0. It should not overlap. Problem is, right? So /16. That's it. Save it. This will save. And you can see the connected devices. If any device or any service using this particular vnet means, that will be displayed here. So far, We are not created any virtual machine, anything. So it will not display here, right? And subnets. These are the two different subnets. If you want, you can create one more subnet from the new bunch or the old bunch, right? For example, new bunch, you know already how to create. I want to create from the old bunch, right? Subnet 03 and yeah.
Sir, a small doubt
Yeah.
here, Naresh. Actually, you are created subnet /24, right? This applies to
Yeah.
address space, right, sir?
VNet address space, yeah, that must be match any one of the address space.
Address space, but 24 having 251 addresses,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, 256
But
in total.
address
Yeah.
space, yeah, 5 Azure reserve.
Yeah.
But address space showing 65,000 /16. That is
Yes.
working or only 251 working?
Okay, let me come again. So your doubt is, yes, these are 65,536 IP addresses are coming if we speak about this particular bunch. Same applies to the below. And this thing, we are not yet created any subnet. We are not created. See, address count, this is not available. First thing you have to remember, this is not available. This is address count, that's it. What you're seeing here is available.
Yeah,
And
that's why I'm asking. Right?
yeah, so from this bunch you have to give, from this count 65,536, this bunch you have to give the subnets, or from the other bunch. Here it's showing available, and it is removed that 5 also. Whatever 5 reserved, that removed. So that's it.
So we can use only 251 addresses for that bunch.
If if this small bunch of subnet 01 or 02, because it is /24, you can maximum go up to 251. That's it. And also, if you want to go, for example, subnet 3, you can create small bunches also. Subnet 03, let it be, and for example 10.0. 1 dot. I want to give from the first bunch. Okay, this particular address space, first address space, 10.0.1 dot, not 24. Let us take 28. Then you can see it's like start IP is 10.0.1.0, same thing, and last IP is 10.0.1.15, right? Total 16 IP addresses will come in this particular small bunch, in which 5 is reserved. So free IP is what we get, 11. You can give 29 also, 29. That will give 3 plus 5, total 8 IP addresses. 5 will be reserved, 3 will be free. This is what very smallest bunch, if you want, you can give. Or if you want to go 30, right? What happens, right? It gives literally very less amount. Even for the reservation, there is no reservation, right? There is no reservation because /29 is maximum that we can give. Simple. /29 is a very smallest bunch we can give as a Microsoft Azure subnet IP address range. This is also interview question. What max you can go? What is the reservation? How many reserved, etc., etc. So this is what smallest bunch also we can go. So rest others like peering, service endpoints, private endpoint, everything I'll cover in the upcoming sessions. Monitoring, we do have dedicated session for that. So one entire session, even these things. So I think that's it for now. So any other doubts today?
No, 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 sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have one doubt, sir. Actually, /8 16, it is counting something, right? /16 means 65,000.
Yeah.
I'm not understood that one, sir. Can you
No
explain?
problem. See, what we looked into just now, we looked into /29 exactly gives 8 free IP addresses, right?
Yeah.
So see, that's what I don't want to go leading bits, etc., etc. That's why I told blindly for today. You can remember /24 is for the subnet you give, /16 you can give for the vnet. 24 gives 256 IP addresses if you add the reservation. Address space, if you vnet address space /16 will give 65,536. Please remember blindly, nothing to worry. For now, vnet /16 subnet /24. If you want smaller chunks as a subnet, you can fine tune like this, right? You can just fine tune like this. You can check, right? 24, 26. How many? It's like 59 plus 5 IP addresses. What I'm saying now is blindly remember /24 means is meant for the subnet and it gives 256 IP addresses. Same applies for the vnet. That's what I told. If we concentrate on that particular topic, leading bits, right? That concept, it lasts for 1.5 hours. We really don't need, we are not the network engineers to deep dive that much. We don't need it. Simply, we can test how many IPs will come by adding the address space, by adding the subnet address space, right? VNet address space or subnet. Simple thing. That's what we wanted.
/8 means how much it will come, sir?
It's like crores. It's like crores of IPs. /8 means 16 crore, 70, 16 crore. Let me show you now what happens, right? So let me delete all, no, 10 dot, some 16 crore it will come. 10 dot 0.0.0 /8, right? This is what the count.
So no need to remember these numbers, right?
No one will ask you why they will ask, what they're going to achieve by asking this, right? Nothing. Even your organization which you are going to join, they will follow /16 is for the VNet, /24 is for the subnet. If they want a very smaller chunk, they'll go for /29. That's it. If you increase the number, right? 8 is very smallest. That's why you are getting big bunch. If you increase the number, count will be reduced. Simple logic. Maximum you can go for 32. Maximum you can go for 32. That's it.
Earlier, it's showing 29 is the lowest.
29 is lowest in Microsoft Azure. 32 means same IP. 10.0.0.0/32 means same IP. There is no count. Count is only one.
Okay.
Yeah. But nothing to worry. We can simply remember this. And one more thing, one more important. You're not deciding any IPs. Try to remember, understand, we are not here to decide IPs. We are here to consume the IPs. Architect will give you what IP addresses you have to create. You'll get a document, build a document, which contains what address space you have to literally mention. It's not your duty at all to decide. Just for our knowledge, we are doing some deep dive. That's it. Just for our knowledge, we are doing this research. Simple. Is it clear? Architect will decide what IP addresses needs to be given. You're not the person to decide.
Okay, sir. Understood.
But try to remember /16, /24 for now. Day by day, it will get adjusted for you, right? If you still want to deep dive, not an issue. I'll take some half an hour or 1 hour session, but I don't think that's really needed. We are not going to worry about, no need to worry about it.
Okay, sir.
Class A, class B, class C, there are many classes, right? In that, we can go leading bits, right? So frozen bits, everything we can go, but that's really not needed. We have many topics. Yeah, we have many topics to cover. Yeah, tell me.
This address range, which is like /24, 16, 30, what we are giving,
Yeah.
that ranges from 1 to 32, right?
Yes, exactly.
But what basically mostly we use is /16 for vnet and /24 for subnet.
That's it.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We don't see anything apart from that. One thing we can go, if they want very smaller subnets, they go for /29. That's it. That's it. Nothing more than. For now, as of today, what you remember is the same. As you told, 16 and 24. VNet subnet. That's it. So any other?
Sir, this is
Yeah.
Rajesh. So I have doubt about this services, right? So five IPs are registered for inbuilt services, right? So can you please tell me that services? I missed that part actually. 256 IP addresses, five IPs are reserved, right?
Oh, sorry, I'm speaking in mute. Sorry. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, so in 256 IP addresses, so we have only 251 IP addresses, and 5 IP addresses are reserved, right? So the reservation is for which services that I?
Okay. You want to see the reservation for what exactly, right? Okay, it's like multicast, it's like broadcast, loopback, link local. I mean, you wanted that particular list.
Yes. Just wanted to know which service it is registered for which IP, something like the
Yeah,
service.
sure.
I would like to know it.
Yeah. Just a moment. I'm getting a call. Let me deny it. Okay. So it's like, for example, if you take any subnet, right? Any subnet, let us go this particular subnet. Yeah. 10.0.0.0/24. If we take this particular subnet, the first IP will be 10.0.0.0 is for the reserved for the network addresses. Second IP is for reserved by the default gateway, and third IP and second and third is reserved for the Azure DNS, right? For the reserved by Azure domain naming service is reserved 2 and 3, and very last one like .255, it's reserved by network broadcast address for the subnet. Simple.
Okay.
So these are, first one is network addresses. I mean, entire address will be reserved for the 0. One will be the default gateway. 2, 3 are Azure DNS. Last one is network broadcast. That's it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Any other?
Thanks for watching video. Please like, share and subscribe.